Well, to be honest, it hasn't stopped Marco before.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the saying in Germany, 3 attempts, €1, and Alessandro owes me a euro now, because it's the third attempt that we try to schedule the famous VHH 3.0 presentation of Italy. There were good reasons, so that's why I will not take your euro. You can give it for charity reasons somewhere else. But it's a big honor for me to have today Alessandro speaking about his home country, Italy, and convey more secrets about La Dolce Vita Italiano. Alessandro, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So I'll share my presentation now. Just confirm whether you see that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope everything goes right. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is my presentation about Italy. Yes, it's the third attempt that we are taking on this. I would say that I also lost my original presentation for some reasons, and I had to redo it from scratch, which gave me the chance to have a different take on it. I was trying at the beginning to be a bit sarcastic and, you know, having fun of my country and the people and the contradictions that Italy brings with it. But then I started thinking about, well, after all, my country is a beautiful country, regardless of what I think about things going on there. And I just thought that it was better to convey to you this beauty of my country, which I love, despite the fact that I don't love it so much as I should. But then I hope that I will manage to transmit this to you. So my presentation is called Fly Italia Fly, because we know the terrible moment our aviation industry is going through, and I wish good luck to all the Italian carriers at the moment, which are struggling a bit. So it's a wish of good luck to them. So let's start. But what's going on? Oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how this could have happened. I think that they're overspending about marketing budget, and maybe they found a way to my presentation. I'm sorry. They just got 3 billion from the government, and I think they are having a lot of fun at the moment.
Marco, shall we call Helsinki and call in a new participant? What do you think, Marco?
No, leave him alone.
Okay. Shall I move on?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, who is this guy who's talking? So I'm frankly not the typical Italian guy. I'm a quarter Ukrainian blood. It means my grandfather was Ukrainian. He was just a fugitive during the World War, and he actually ran through half of the country, escaping from chases, whether they were real or in his mind. But still, he was found almost dead by the family of my grandmother. So he settled down in Italy after the war. He got married, and then my father came, and then I came after some years. So I'm a quarter Ukrainian. I married a Polish, so I'm not married to an Italian. I drive a Japanese car.
But
my dog is a Breton.
Catholic. You keep it in the Catholic family. That's I would say a standard, isn't it? Italy.
No. My family is not very Catholic at all. So we don't have this in the family. And I definitely don't have it in
country. I thought the Vatican and Italy and the Pope and everything. No.
Well, yes, this is like this somehow, but we are not really. I mean, we the Italians, we declare ourselves as Catholic, but we are not so much Catholic as other countries in Europe, like Poland.
Usually Catholics are the worst. Huh? They're just to be just and all that stuff, and usually but the Pope is also flying Alitalia, so there are some correlations.
Yeah, he is definitely, and will be for a long time.
Which is why every time he reaches, he kisses the tarmac.
The ground. Yeah, that's true. So, and I use an Indian PSS, and I partly live and work in Albania. So, and I don't like soccer. I love soccer. I really don't like it. I'm more much into other kind of sports. I think the rugby is much more fun than stupid soccer.
It's called
football. Sorry?
It's called football, not soccer. Football.
Oh, Daniel, you finally learned it.
Of course, I learned it from you.
I'm grateful.
Absolutely.
I really couldn't care less how it is called. I still loathe it, so it's not a problem.
But
So
I
prefer watching paint dry than
let's
watching
avoid
soccer.
It's not good to talk about football if we have Portuguese guests in the call. Hi, Fatima. Good to have you with us.
Hello, how are you?
But we have also Erica from Brazil in the call, so we can talk about football if you like.
Yes.
No, you can't.
Okay, great.
I like soccer. Can we change the topic?
No, but I don't. So, I mean, we are on good grounds here, and I think we are the majority, so no worries about that.
You didn't.
Okay, so
you moved from marriage straight to PSS, so you skipped the car and the dog.
No, I
priority.
No. I drive a Japanese car. I don't like Italian cars. I don't trust Italian cars so much. And yes, my dog is a Breton, but that's by pure chance because I adopted him from a shelter. So, but you know, that's a bit of the destiny. Trick's destiny is playing on me. So, I do not really represent the Italian culture myself. I do not define myself really an Italian, and I don't feel very national about Italy itself or tying yourself to the country you've been born into. I rather declare myself citizen of the world and maybe of Europe itself. But I like, thinking that whatever we can do to change the country we live in and the world all around is a good thing. But anyway, I'm not really nationalistic. So, but still, as I said, I think that Italy is a beautiful country. So I will try as much as I can to be ambassador of Italy. And to
but by the way, Alessandro, have you prepared your German white wine for the session?
Actually, I have a plum smoothie because I was not able to find here in Albania, because I'm in Tirana at the moment, a wine which was not on a 2-liter bottle, and since I will not drink it, it would seem, spoiling it. I also need to do a presentation. Yes, I also need to do a presentation, so I wouldn't trust myself with a bottle of 2 liters of wine after all.
Well,
so okay.
Habit of spilling half of it anyway, so. But that's sorry. That's what.
Okay, so Italy. Let's see some gloomy insight of Italian aviation. What's so strange about Italy? I think we are one of the few countries in the world where we had 200 airlines in 100 years, and Italy is by far the country of the defunct airlines. So as I said, we had 200 in 100 years, basically a new airline every 6 months. The average lifespan of these airlines was 6 years, but trust me, most of them did not really last very long, not even a year or a few months.
So does it mean your airlines are even worse than your governments? I think you had 67 governments after the World War II, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But airlines are much worse than the governments, I would say, really. Hundreds of these airlines actually performed scheduled flights. 15 did not even manage to get the AOC, where, dying in the attempt. And 20 of these airlines were absorbed by Alitalia. Oh, God.
Which is also...
Again. Be careful, guys, because I think the shark is still hungry, so we might be all in danger.
What is the abbreviation for Alitalia? It has a meaning, isn't it?
Alitalia? No, it's just a portmanteau of the words wings, which is Ali in Italy, and Italia, which is the name of the country, which I think, and I admit that it's a very smart name, and it's very.
Was there not another meaning for Alitalia?
No, Alitalia just means Alitalia. It's just this portmanteau, but doesn't have any meaning. The word itself doesn't have any meaning.
I thought there's a different meaning. semi-automated but really expensive or something. I thought that was a similar meaning. No.
There is actually, when they started, they said we will be always late in takeoff, always late in arrival.
Yes. But there was also another one, Marco. It's
We have
wait.
stop as well. It's take another plane.
But there is also another explanation: is aircraft lands in Tokyo and luggage in Atlanta. This is also an explanation.
I love it.
Yeah, that's funny. So, but let's try to explain a bit to you what is Italy under my point of view, which I would say is rather, representative. So basically in Italy, we know all, we do best, we scream louder, and you don't. So we are generally better than other people, and so we think we are. But that reflects also in our political setup, because we have a parliamentary republic with over 1,000 representatives that have 1,000 different opinions. We have a mostly proportional electoral system with chances of crowds, which always makes it very difficult to form a government which have a clear majority and can take decisions in a very easy way. This leads in a general political instability, also because every government changes the electoral law so that the next government will have to change it again. So it's just, a bit of a trick they do to make life harder to the government that will come next, in case they will not have a clear majority on the next elections.
So in total, it's called Grande Casino, isn't it?
Yes, it is a Grande Casino. Yes, it is really like this. Trend. Then this is all complicated by two houses of the parliament that basically do the exact same thing. It's called a perfect bicameralism in Italy, because whatever the first house of the parliament approves as a law, then the second chamber has to approve again. And if they change something, then the law goes back to the first chamber that needs to agree on that, and that goes back to the second chambers that needs to re-agree on that. But if they don't, it goes back to the first chamber where they need to agree once again, and that could easily lead to any horse turn into an hippo. So it's very difficult in Italy to have a law which comes out of the mind of the legislator and finally lands in the country as it was intended at the beginning. So that's really tricky. Then another two sentences that clearly defines Italy is that it was already broken and you didn't fix it right. So this represents clearly the lack of responsibility that our political class has, because the troubles were always caused by who was there before. And as nobody is fixing that and somebody else has to do it, then they, of course, will have to comment whatever somebody else has done, but they didn't. So this is a very, yeah.
But this is the Alessandro. You said you didn't want to be sarcastic and cynical, and now you are. I mean,
no, I'm
deep to sarcasm. Now,
I'm not sarcastic.
With my half Italian, not quarter Ukrainian, yes, but half Italian blood, you could also spin this not into a political instability, but also political stability, because despite all the many governments, there's only one way to have a very stable course charted out, and that is constant change, which happens at such a high frequency and pace that the powers that be don't actually have the opportunity to create havoc and chaos.
But then again, Marco, if you bring in the saying,
if you
bring in the saying of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different result, wouldn't that then be a counter to what you just said?
No, you are very negative. Where
he's realistic. He's realistic.
How dare you know better, you bloody South African?
Well, I'm just saying, we've got South African politics, so I should just stay quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine you had
Marco on the other.
if you had Trump in Italy, by the time he creates havoc, there's going to be a new government already, and he's long history.
But we had Berlusconi as well, Marco. So even our political instability can just let people come to power and do whatever they want for quite some time. But yes, it's true that this this institutional setup of Italy is very difficult for somebody to come and do as he pleases unless he has a very strong popular support. But also makes difficult for a government which is elected on a proportional electoral system to find the strength to really do some structural changes in the country, because everybody will have its own voice in chapter and will have something against and will then have the power to stop and change it. Because government really sometimes are up by just a small party with 2%, which plays the golden share in the government. So I assume that there is no perfect formula, and that, yes, a majoritarian electoral system might lead to a more authoritarian government and positions. But then I would really like to see that happening somehow and see how it works, because this one is clearly not really working very well. Because long time needed changes in our country are very slow to come and missing in action. So. And by the way, I'm not being sarcastic, I'm just being honest and representing to you what is happening in this country. That if you feel that it's sarcasm, there's your problem. Okay, so, but this is Italy anyway. So, and why in the hell should I visit Italy then? Oh, but actually, as I said, there are a lot of reasons. And most notably, the history and architecture, which is for me the strongest point in visiting our country. Then there is also culture, there is folklore and traditions, there is nature, and there is food. All of these elements are very strong and gives Italy quite a strong appeal. And most of all, if you come to Italy as a tourist, I don't think you have to complain. The problem is living in the country, not visiting the country anyways. So let's start seeing about history and architecture first. So Italy has seen a long way with history and architecture, and is a very notable point, because truly in Italy, architecture is all around. Whenever you go, wherever you go, in a small town or in a large town or in a village, you will see layers and layers of history and architecture everywhere. From before and beyond the Roman Empire, say through the Middle Age and feudalism, and then past Renaissance and Resurgence to the modern era, you will see that all these historical periods really did leave a mark in urbanism and in architecture throughout our country. And this itself is really one of the main reasons why you should visit Italy and see how beautiful it is. But let's go, quickly through the architecture styles that we have in Italy. So, as we said, we have Roman imperial architecture. Roman imperial architecture is clearly and most notably seen in Rome and in Latium, which is the region where Rome is located. But that's because that was the capital of the Roman Empire. And the most notable buildings, which are still up and somehow in a decent shape, are the one from the 1st to the 5th century. Notable examples are the Pantheon in Rome and the Colosseum. And these two buildings really show how the Roman imperial architecture was meant to showcase the greatness and the power of the Roman Empire, but also show us that the imperial architecture was also done with a purpose. The Pantheon was a temple where the gods were being celebrated. The Colosseum was the place we all know where the population was being entertained. As the Latins say, panem et circensem, which means somehow bread and entertainment, which are very useful to keep the population happy and sedate any somehow unhappiness and frustration that they might have with respect to a society that still had, the population, the low population, and the somehow the premium ones with the senators and the nobility. Then what we got through the centuries a bit later, because, you know, through the Middle Age, actually, it was quite a dark period where nothing really happened for quite some time. But around the 9th century and throughout the up to the 11th century, we had the Romanic architecture. This happened somehow when the Middle Age was coming towards an end. So actually, some new the science was somehow progressing. Some inventions had started to make economies grow throughout Italy and also Europe. And the Romanic architecture is so-called Romanic. Most says because it draws different styles and elements and mutates elements from the Roman architectures, like the columns, for example, and the arches. Others says differently, like Romanic stands not for the Roman architecture itself, but from the fact that this kind of architecture was being developed by countries where the Roman languages were spoken, like France or Spain. So the Romanic architecture is very heterogeneous because it was developing in Italy, but also throughout Europe with different takes and flavors. But this common element of drawing elements from the Roman architecture is quite the same everywhere. And two most notable examples of this architecture is the Duomo of Pisa. We can see the top of the Leaning Tower there behind, and also the Church of Sant'Ambrogio in Milan. As you see, the buildings are very different, but some elements are common to both. So if you have any question, meanwhile, you can ask. So then we come to my favorite architecture style that you can find in Italy, which is the Gothic architecture that went from the 12th century to the 16th century. So it was quite a long period. We see in the pictures, we have the Duomo of Milan and the Duomo of Orvieto. Milan, we all know what it is. Orvieto is a town in the Umbria. Umbria is a region in the center of Italy. So Italian Gothic is a bit different than the French Gothic. The French Gothic is somehow more complex, heavier, and darker, okay? While Italian Gothic is more of a moderate and rational take of a French Gothic. Of course, the Duomo of Milan, you can see, is quite more astounding and complicated structure because of the multicolored marble that they used on the facade, but also we see that these points on the rooftop are more elaborate, while the Duomo of Orvieto, which is one of the churches in Italy I really like the most, is much more rational and geometric, still retaining that wonderful Gothic attire, which I come to like very much.
I visited Milan.
But anyway,
I visited Milan in, I think, 2018, and that was one of the highlights of all of my travels, is seeing Duomo in Milan and the piazza there. It was really having a glass of wine and a pizza there, overlooking the Duomo, Il Duomo. It was, for me, it's been one of my highlights of my life.
Yeah, the Duomo of Milan is truly impressive, and the square itself is extremely large, and like the Duomo stands out. And to have really a glass of wine or a pizza there is really a fantastic experience. But as you will see, the architecture in Italy is not all the same. Gothic in Milan was different than Gothic in other parts, because Italy didn't come to be a single nation or a single state until the late 19th century. And there were influences from different countries and different reigns which occupied Italy throughout the century. So it's all very different. What you see in Milan is not what you see in the south or what you see in the center of Italy. And this clearly shows. Then after the Gothic, we got the Renaissance, which somehow overlaps with the Gothic somehow, because it goes from the 15th century to the 16th century. The Renaissance architectures, again, takes a dip in the past and tries to recover some spaces and proportion in the architecture style from the Roman architecture. Itself is anyway a very heterogeneous style. And these two buildings here, one is Palazzo dei Diamanti in Ferrara. It's called the Palace of the Diamonds because you can see that on the facade we have these somehow geometrical shapes coming out of the building that resemble somehow diamonds, and the Santa Maria Novella Church in Florence, which again shows some clear signs like the arch and the design on the facade of the columns, which is very typically Roman, but also mutuate some elements from the Gothic in my point of view. Anyway, so it was a melange of styles which characterized the Renaissance, where all the arts was starting to come alive again, and creativity was at its peak for the time. And then came the Baroque. The Baroque is fantastic. It happened in the 17th century. We see these two buildings. One is a church, is Church of San Giuseppe in Milan. The other is actually a building, is Palazzo Carignano in Turin. The Baroque is deemed to be very vulgar and tacky by some because of the way that it's developed. It's so distorting space and playing with lights and shadow, and it's so irregular. And but most tacky, I think, is the Baroque design, where you have got furnitures and other stuff. But still, I think it's a rather amazing one. And this is really where you see a difference from north to south of Italy, because in Turin, as you can say from the building, yes, there are clearly some Baroque elements. But anyway, there is somehow a rational building there appearing. But if you go, for example, down in Sicily, you will see some really weird Baroque buildings and places that really are much more creative and not obeying any rational law. Then the Art Nouveau came in Italy. It was around the 19th and 20th century. The Art Nouveau, we all know, it came after the Industrial Revolution. And this is where architecture and art tries to reconnect with nature. So we have this also very complex, somehow decoration resembling plants and flowers. We have a lot of examples of Art Nouveau liberty architecture in Italy, but it's rather on private houses of rich people of the times. That's why I pictured here Villa Scott in Torino, which is a private house, and Villino Ruggeri in Pesaro, which is also a private house. But really, you have to cherry pick this kind of buildings, because this kind of architecture is not very common in Italy. But when you find it, I would say that it's really, really amazing. And this also, again, makes understand how important it is to visit Italy throughout, from north to south, because really you could visit Italy 1,000 times and still have something to see which you were not able to see somewhere else. And then it comes to the monumentalism and the rationalism of the 20th century. This is more or less when Mussolini came to power. So monumentalism is very typical of the fascist architecture, with gigantic proportion, this order and this rationality in the building. And this was somehow very represented in the Rome area called Eur, which is it was like an universal exposition area which was built under the fascists, which show a building like this one that we see, which is called the Colosseum. It's actually Palazzo della Civiltà, it's the Palace of the Civilization, but it's so called by everybody as the Square Colosseum. And this is part of the Eur area in Rome, which is full of this kind of things. But also we can see this in many areas of Rome, like this house here, which is Palazzine Gemelle, is like twin buildings, because it's one in front of another. These are the two twin buildings. And clearly, again, you see how rational and ordered the architecture is. And Ostia, which is the let's say the Rome on the sea, it's an area of Rome which is on the sea where I lived. It's a very good example of this kind of architecture. There are many of these buildings. I live there actually, and this building is very close to my house, which I really like the most. So despite it comes from a moment of Italy where it was maybe a bit dark for democracy itself, I would say that this kind of architecture is really impressive and really left a mark, and it's really a joy to see. So that's my small overview about the architecture in history throughout the ages. And really, you can find all of this in a very small area. You can walk a few steps and jump from monumentalism to Renaissance, to Romantic, to Gothic, and in Rome especially, you have a lot of it to see, but also in Florence, in Venice, in Bologna, in Milan, in Turin, in Bergamo, in Palermo, in Catania, everywhere. So let's move then from architecture to culture and arts. Italy has really a rich cultural and artistic heritage, and there is really more than buildings and architecture to see. We have an endless list of exhibitions and events running all year round that celebrates the cultural and artistic heritage of Italy. And I would say that operas and concerts are something that a tourist should commit to see, because are quite an experience. And then, of course, we've got paintings, and we've got sculptures. So concerts and operas are very enjoyable when seen in open air, arenas. One of the best places to see an opera in Rome is by the Terme di Caracalla. Terme di Caracalla is the Caracalla baths. It's ancient Roman baths, where you had, the cold baths, the hot baths, where the Romans went to take a bath. It's bath, basically, it's a bath. And the stage is built all around the ruins of the Caracalla baths. So the setting is really impressive, because this frame is truly charming. The acoustic is wonderful, and you can enjoy really Italian operas in open air. Either it's Verdi, Puccini, or Rossini. It's quite a show. And also Arena di Verona is another place where you can see this, and Amphitheatro in Syracuse, it's also another place. But really every city more or less has its spots for open air operas and concerts.
Alessandro, you said earlier you're not the typical Italian, but I have to admit the passion is, I can feel it. You are very typical Italian. That's good. But I'm missing a bit. You're not using your hands very much for articulating.
I'm not a very gesticular person. I will try to improve in the rest of the presentation. Okay?
It's
I will try my best.
And is it because I think I told this in one of the virtual happy hours in 1990? I was in Corsica. At that time, I had an Italian girlfriend, and we had a contest, Miss La Chiappa, because that was the name of this vacation camp, La Chiappa. And there was a German, a French, an Italian, and I think a Swiss and then British. And they were all making some contests. And one part of the contest was singing a song, a typical national song. And the Italians, they were singing this opera from Nabucco, the chorus from Nabucco, and I was totally amazed, because no German would be able to sing such an opera song. So would you be able to sing it for us, the prisoner chorus of Nabucco?
Yes, I know that. But should I sing it?
Yeah, but I think that would be giving us a typical flavor of Italian, fantastic.
Okay. Okay, I will not sing it all. I just know the refrain more or less. Is Va pensiero sull'ali dorate. Questo qua is this one, right?
Oh, it's incredibile. Io sono allora molto felice allora.
Okay, but consider, my dear. First of all, that La Chiappa means ass cheek, and I think
I know.
Okay. So just to be sure.
So I would just like to add, Daniel, you're recording this. So if you distribute this recording, you will owe Alessandro any royalties for his singing.
No, it's the other way around. We have
promotion. Yes, I paid you.
Italy Got Talent. That's a big TV show, and my aim is that the Virtual Happy Hour 3.0 is making Alessandro the big new star in Italy. Bigger than everybody else, bigger than Pavarotti. And after publishing this on YouTube, he is getting the royalty, because everybody says, you're a great guy, please can you sing us a song? And then he will kicking ass.
Yeah, but consider one thing, that this particular song here from the Nabucco opera is quite characteristic of some nationalist party of Italy from the north, the Lega Nord. Salvini and all these people, because they're very, it's like they wanted to change the Italian national anthem to this song. So whenever you see somebody singing this, then it's most probably some Italian nationalist. But it depends how many years ago it was.
But I have to admit,
how many
I like the national anthem of Italy very much. Of course, I don't like it after the match. I like it before the match. because if you listen to it after the match,
because you lose,
listening to the winner, there I like the German national anthem much more, but I like it very much. It is very musical. It's really a great national anthem.
Yeah, I think it's quite catchy. I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm not really a fan, as I said, but again, it's still yet my national anthem. So yes, it's nice.
Yes, you can fan. It can be played for skiing, volleyball, handball, rugby, tennis, for everything, not just for football.
Yes, that's true.
Or Italian wines, for example. But I know you are, since our virtual happy hour 4.0, you're a big fan of German wines. I know that.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise and an accident, I would say, that it will not repeat. But yes, I was surprised and pleased by the German wines, I would say. Okay. Guys, let's move on to paintings and frescoes. Okay, so what we see here is truly classic masterpieces. Of the Italian paintings. We see the creation of Adam from the Sistine Chapel and the Venus of Botticelli, which is stored in the Uffizi Museum in Florence. But you know, these are very iconic and classic. But really, throughout the year, every time you go to Italy, you will find a lot of temporary and resident exhibitions in every major cities, where a lot of paintings are displayed and can be seen. And you can really get soaked in visual arts in Italy and see a lot of it, because there are a lot of painters, a lot of things to see. And not forget that churches themselves are like an exhibition of paintings, because inside every church there are frescoes or paintings everywhere, and which is really interesting to see. And of course, this also goes throughout the whole ages that we've discussed before. So you've got a lot of styles and a lot of different types of paintings. And also with the religious paintings, I would say that the main artists in the Italian painting also did a lot of work for the church, because of course you also need to eat, you know, and that was very easy way for these for example for Michelangelo to earn some money easily was to work and do paintings with the church. So really in churches you can find masterpieces, really masterpieces from these artists as well, which you don't find in the museums. So that's a good reason to visit churches in Italy as well. Art. Then sculptures. This is my favorite. I think the sculpture, more than paintings, are able to convey art. And one of my favorite statues is Apollo and Daphne, which is from Bernini and is stored in Galleria Borghese. And also another very beautiful, it's done with bronze and not with marble, but still is David of Donatello, which I chose over the David of Michelangelo, which is, you know, the culturist guy, which we all know and seen many times, because I like more the soft lines and you know of this Michelangelo from David from Donatello. So either bronze or marbles, are you team Bernini, Donatello, or Michelangelo? Because they were all great sculpturists. My favorite is by far Bernini, because really is able to you know to use a marble and really make show movement and the softness of the body. And when you look at that, you really see live people. You don't see marble at all. You don't see a sculpture. And I really could stare at statues for hours. So if you go to Rome ever, don't miss the Galleria Borghese. It's a museum where the main masterpieces of Bernini are stored. And there are really a lot of awesome statues that you should see. Then this is somehow all about arts. I mean, I don't pretend to show you everything and to be able to cover all the fantastic things that we've got in Italy about arts. But still, I try to give you a glimpse of the most notable things and try to be to let you be hungry for more. So, but also folklore and tradition. It's something alone that will really fill your up your agenda, but also your tummy. So let's forget about arts and architectures for a while And if you want to spend some time in the open, if you want to eat and explore wonderful small towns around Italy and drive around the country and join the wonderful sites, there are really 1,000 of celebration every time, everywhere. And, they're running every week. So saints, yes, it's always a good reason for celebrate, because this is every day we have a saint to celebrate. But even an artichoke or a mushroom is a good reason for a 2-3 day celebration in Italy, because in small towns, they have this thing called sagre. I don't know how to translate this. A sagra is somehow a celebration of something that keeps a small town very busy for 2 to 3 days, when everything is about the things which is being celebrated.
But
and we have here,
because Marco and me, we cannot come to Italy in June. We need to go to Latvia in June.
No, it's any time. You can come every month.
Good,
and
okay.
It's July,
August. Okay, then we can make our trip, Marco, isn't it?
Yeah. And there is more to the eyes and mouth with the Sagre, because, I will not mention, as I said, Palio di Siena or Carnevale di Venezia, which everybody knows about, and it's no introduction. But, it's the local events where we celebrate food and folklore that really, for me, stand a difference and are a more enjoyable option. So you have a chance to visit these beautiful towns and eat local and exquisite food cooked by nonnas, which are grandmas, and indeed, like there's no tomorrow. And the funny thing is the posters that they come up with for this local happening. As you can see, there is the Sagra of the sausage with this American beauty pig in flour, and also there is La Sagra del Calzone. Calzone is a kind of rolled pizza with filling. You can see there is Nonna there, which is cooking calzone, and most probably she is there really to host you and give you calzone for it. And there is an old man who nobody knows who he is. Maybe he's the mayor. But also there is La Chiappa here for the festa, the Sagra of the Pecorina, which is a hard-boiled sheep.
And this poster is from the year 2020?
No, this salsiccia is from 2020. No, I don't know which year it is. The other is 2016, and Pecorina, I'm sorry, but I think it's from 2010. So
okay, yeah, because I think 10 years ago the times were different. If I'm seeing here some pictures, I don't know whether that's appropriate in 2020. At least in Germany.
No. They're still like this. Believe me, it's still like this. Believe me, it didn't change. Everything is allowed on these posters, really, because these posters are printed like 200 or 300. They're just exposed in that small town where this happening takes place, and you see all sorts of things.
I thought that's only possible with Berlusconi, but okay, if this is still interesting, good.
And Pecorina is also a sexual position. So that is why you see the lady there, because they also play with the words and try to be funny and goliardic and to attract people. And what you see on this poster, really, it's incredible.
I don't know. We have here four women for the next aviation women's panel. 2 of them were already in the first aviation women's panel. So always be careful, yeah, because I don't know whether this is appropriate here.
I'm actually.
No, I know.
I think the sheep should be wearing a mask.
I know, but I'm not judging whether this is fine or not. I personally do not really like this kind of humor myself, but it's just to showcase what's going on in Italy with this kind of events where everything is allowed somehow, and it's funny.
The sheep should be black, not white, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, but this is
I will never forget. So it's the same meaning like La Chiappa.
Yes, it's more or less. We can put it in the same box.
You can.
So, but this is also for me.
If you Google La Chiappa Corsica, you know what kind of club it was I was working.
I don't think I need to Google. I think I understand already.
Sorry, I was young. I needed the money. What can I say? Huh?
Okay. So there's also a special mention from these posters. You know, there is these movies like this was a book actually, and then a movie, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And they also use this title to showcase a pig, a cooked pig, because this is a fantastic beast, and where to find it is at the saga of the porchetta. So as you see, they have no mercy for anything. They reuse movie titles. They use women undressed. They use everything just to try to promote these events and have people coming there. And it's, I think, all in all, it's really a part of Italy somehow. You can criticize it or not, but still is very folkloristic and very tied in with Italian culture somehow. So then nature, of course, is, again, alone a reason to visit Italy. As we know, Italy is a boot. It's shaped like a boot. So there are different climates. It's 1,300 kilometers long and very narrow. So there are different climates. There is different flora and fauna from north to south. We have from icy glaciers to scorching beaches, and also we go through mild forests and lakes. And Italy really has it all. Let's start from the glaciers and mountains. Two of the most the highest mountains of Italy is the Gran Paradiso, which is 4,000 meters tall, and Monte Bianco, which is 4,800 meters tall. Monte Bianco is the tallest mountain of Italy overall. And winter up in the north has come already. So you can visit protected natural areas there, and also bang your head with some cool local friends, as you can see. So if you like skiing, then from east to west, I would say that the Alps are the best, because it's a flavor for every season. During winter, you can certainly ski, but also during summer, it's really beautiful to enjoy hiking there or doing some kind of more extreme escalation expeditions on the mountains. And it's really marvelous. But then again, from the ice to the lava, the floor is really lava in Italy, because we are a country where we are always rioting over something and mumbling, but we never actually come to release our tension. So I would rather be scared about the volcanoes instead, because we have 3 active volcanoes in ever shaking country, and we actually have many more volcanoes. There are 45 volcanoes. Most of them are extinct or dormant, and just 3 of them showed activity in the last 100 years. The Vesuvium is quite steady since already 80 years, I think, more or less. But Etna and Stromboli are quite active and very frequently are erupting ashes and some lava as well. And it's really something that you should see. I think the easiest one to visit, all in all, is the Etna in Catania, because you can simply book a trip there and go until the crater on the top and see how the volcano activity is going on there. It's quite safe. It's not a very violent and strong. Sometimes it erupts, but it's under control, we would say, until it's not, of course, because with volcanoes, you can really never say. So, but I think these are the only volcanoes which are active throughout Europe overall. So we are quite a peculiar country even for this.
And when you think of the population and the density of population around Napoli and the Vesuvio, it's actually quite scary.
Yes.
It's so densely populated, that Bay of Naples. And in the middle of it, you have
the Vesuvium is really a concern, because there are houses built on the very mountainside. So if the Vesuvio ever comes to erupt, in a way that people could be saved, because any emergency and contingency plan that is being tested will not work, simply because of how much most of these buildings and houses are abusive, are not authorized, but still are there. So it's quite concerning, yes. But that's Italy. Whatever is built does not take into consideration anything. So whenever something happens, then there are damages, there are dead people. But it's not because we are unlucky; it's because we chose our own destiny, I would say. So it's a bit sad, but this is Italy, anyways. It's part of it. Then let's move to the island. So islands, I've got a travel tip. islands, again, are all along a reason for visiting and coming back multiple times. So not considering Sicily and Sardinia, which we do not really consider as islands because they're very big and are like, regions of Italy. And so you feel like this island feeling somehow. And apart from the most famous Capri, Lampedusa, and Pantelleria Island, I would say that the Isle of Elba is the biggest island in Italy, of the small islands, of course, and it is really a top destination for a family vacation. It's small enough so that you can visit it to and fro in a week, but it's not so big to get lost in it. And really, it has several different beaches. In the north, it's where you will find the beaches for the families, which are more, easygoing and more accessible, but in the south as well. But on the west side, you have these cliffs that go sharp into the sea that you can somehow very hardly, but still possibly climb down to reach some spots which are really fantastic, where you either, get yourself into an expedition with a bit of courage and climb down and reach this point, so you can get there only by a boat. So it's really a beautiful island, and it offers a lot of things. You have small towns there where something is always happening during summer, and for a family, I think it's really a truly amazing place to go for a vacation, because the sea is also extremely beautiful, as you can see from the picture.
So I do have a question. When can I start moving to Italy?
If you really want to, then you're most welcome anytime.
Yeah, but
can't hear you.
You have to cope with Italian wines and to give up South African wines. How do you like to survive?
DHL.
Okay, great. So let's move to the Apennines. What are the Apennines? The Apennines are the backbone of Italy. It's 1,300 kilometers of mountains that run from north to south through the center of Italy. As you can see from the picture, the brown areas here is the Apennines. There are castles, small towns, fortresses there. It's full of life, it's full of places, and nature is really boosting at its full power. You have a lot of lakes there on the mountains. And also Apennines played a really important role during the World War II, because it's where the resistance had to fight back and slow down the Nazist invasion because of the characteristic, it's difficult to reach. And if you know that very well, you can do ambushes and cause a lot of trouble to somebody that is trying to take over. So that's why we love Apennines somehow, because they represent also the resistance during the war. But also it's a place that is everywhere, because from north to south, you've got Apennines everywhere. So it's a common place where we go and hide for quite some time of rest in the peace of nature. And you have mountains which are not really high, but still can offer a lot of beautiful sights and landscapes. So let's move to the last part, which is food and beverages. So here comes at last, and we accept no compromises here. We might be lousy, lazy, noisy, preposterous, whatever, but Italy is caput mundi of the food, and here we accept no discussion, not even from the German winemaker. So let's try to see some interesting facts about the most relevant edible masterpieces of Italy. Pasta, 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 pasta. Oh God, we have over 300 types of pasta in Italy, and each one is for a good reason. Either it's short, it's long pasta, it's ribbon pasta, minute pasta, or stuffed pasta, or anything nice that the mind can imagine. We have 300 of them. And, for each kind of sauce, yes.
Is it not just market?
Yes.
Is it not just market? At the end, it's a noodle, isn't it?
No, go away, please. It's not a noodle, because if you look at the ribbon cut, on the bottom left, you will see that you have several kinds of white of the noodle. Okay, so it's not just a noodle, because with a meat sauce, some kind of noodles are better for the broth, some others are better, because it's the way they interact with the sauces and with the condiments. So
that's, you know, I'm always telling my wife, cooking in dialogue, that's exactly what it meant. The dialogue between the sauce and the noodle, that's exactly making the taste. Thank you. Thank you. That's great.
I have a request. When we do that food virtual happy hour again, can we maybe learn how to make fresh pasta?
Exactly.
That's something that I'd love to learn.
You are now hired to make a cooking class with Nikki from Miami and Christian from Frankfurt. Next time we do pasta italiana, bolognese, and all that stuff, and you show us how to make a vegan pasta.
Yes, but I can bake. I mean, I can prepare the pasta by myself, not using industrial pasta. I can with flour, eggs, and
exactly. No, we will do that. I think that will be amazing. And then I think we will combine this with the South African wine tasting. We make a combination of VHH 4.0, 5.0, making it VHH 9.0.
That's fine.
Please don't forget to invite me, the girl in Brazil, okay?
Okay.
But Erica, you always have your lunch during this virtual happy hour. You have to schedule your lunch earlier or later.
Don't worry. For pasta, yes, we can make an arrangement for that.
I see.
You know, it's very traditional in Brazil as well. I had my younger here looking to how many different pastas, type of pasta you guys have. And because it's his favorite food, definitely. It's his favorite food, in the world. So we have the machine to open the pasta, some things to cut it. So definitely invite us. We will enjoy it.
Good, very good.
Definitely. So I will do the pasta for you. Don't worry.
Very good.
So then it comes pizza. Who invented really pizza? There is a lot of debate about this. Of course, the answer is clear: Italy. So pizza is traced back to 1997. What is so funny about that?
I like it. So and soccer or football was also invented from Italy.
I don't care. You can take it.
Okay, good.
Keep it. Great. So pizza is traced back to the 997 past Anno Domini in Italy. So, however, it seems that some Persian soldiers in 600 before Christ were trying to cook something like that on their shields under the sun. But I think they were just hungry and trying to improvise it. So I don't think it has anything to do with pizza. So I will just keep it with Italy for the moment. So, but during the 17th century, this is a fun fact, the tomato on top finally happened, and not earlier. And this was courtesy of Naples, because tomato, which came from America on the 16th century in Europe, was believed to be poisonous until the 17th century. Then finally, somebody in Naples tried to mess up with tomato and pizza, and that's where the tomato on top of the pizza finally happened. And the pizza margherita, which is the most famous pizza in the world. So in 1889, Queen Margherita di Savoia, which was the Queen of Italy at the time, chose her favorite pizza during a visit in Naples. And that's how pizza margherita was christened, directly from the name of the Queen herself.
Fantastic. I love
it. Italy.
Yeah.
And cheese. So who's the number one here?
No, can we go back to the pizza, because it has the reference to the tomato. I find that very fascinating that, I mean, we know that the tomatoes come from North America, but if you imagine not just the Italian cuisine, but also all the Mediterranean cuisine is so heavily based on tomatoes, and yet that wasn't there. So the Romans weren't eating pizza. They weren't even eating noodles or pasta of sorts. So it's interesting to when you think of it, that you still see the architecture and the paintings and many things from the Roman Empire. Yeah, but the cuisine, the food was totally different. So it's a very, so the cuisine as we know it today is only like 200-300 years old, not just in Italy.
Yeah, that's true. Really true. But also Italian cuisine is a melange of all the kind of flavors and styles that were brought to Italy by the civilization that populated Italy throughout the ages, because we had Arabians, we had Greek, we had Spanish, we had French, we had Austrians, we had a lot of dominations in Italy. Yes.
Just for the protocol, you were just saying all the other countries were bringing civilization to Italy. So before you hadn't any civilization.
No, I was meaning that all other civilizations that were occupying Italy.
Ah, okay.
It's slightly different. So, but it didn't work very well. Seeing what we have now, I think it didn't really work very well. So, but we will recover anyways. So anyway, the Italian cuisine and the Mediterranean cuisine is also a melange of several things. So it's something that is evolving over time constantly, but has a strong roots in the South European Mediterranean.
But I have to admit, pizza is really, really a killer. That's really it's so simple somehow.
Yes.
But
yes,
it's really, really a killer. It's you cannot stand for it, and that's something where I have to say that's Italian export #1, I would say.
Yeah,
I think the cuisine in general in Italy is simple, and it's focused on the best ingredients, and the simplicity just makes it so mind-boggling.
Yeah, but if you're looking in the US and other countries, I doubt that you are finding a burrata with tomato and blah 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 brought from somebody from Deliverando or Uber Eats and so on. But everybody will bring you a box of pizza, and then in every garage where they are developing something, they eat the pizza. And that's why for me, pizza, it's the Italian export #1, and all the other things, what I said, burrata or how you call this, tuna based vitello tonato and all the other things. I think that's what is then the upscale thing. But I doubt anybody in the US knows vitello tonato, but they all know pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, but unfortunately, we're not really exporting. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not really exporting it, and we are producing pizza locally, which is where the dream ends, actually, unfortunately. For Germany. But still, come to Italy, I will show you what would... Yes, really pizza is a great thing.
But what is striking me is, I remember I was with my wife in Sicilia, and we were eating very late, like the Spanish and the Portuguese, and we wanted to eat something at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
No, not like the Portuguese. That's a mistake.
You don't get anything in Italy before, I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. So you go.
No. Portugal is not like Spain. Nothing.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I excluded
8 o'clock maximum.
Yeah, sorry, Portuguese.
It's true. No, it's true. We have lunch at 1 o'clock, and in Spain it's at 2 o'clock. We have dinner at 8 maximum, and in Spain it's around 10 p.m. It's different.
Fatima, when is your Portugal presentation?
I don't know. I have to reschedule again. I'm sorry for that. But maybe the 23rd. You were suggesting the 23rd, but 23rd for me it's a very complicated day. I already told you. It's a very bad day, but I will try.
Italy is eating very, very late, and no restaurant is open. So if you are a German traveler and a visitor, you don't get anything. You can eat, I don't know, a biscuit and an ice cream, but you don't get anything in a restaurant.
Yeah, but this has changed a bit in my view. It's now somehow mostly in touristic places, the restaurants start from, earlier than 8 is indeed a bit difficult. Yes, 8 is considered to be, the earliest possible point in time where you can start sitting in a restaurant, but then you don't get anything to eat before it's 8:30 anyways.
But how do you manage obesity? Because from my understanding, Italians are rather slim than Germans.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you're eating very late, and usually if you're eating late, you are gaining weight. So
this is a nonsense. It's not true. You're gaining weight if you're eating more calories than your body actually can burn. If you can even eat at 10 o'clock in the evening, this doesn't really change much.
The problem is gaining weight. Is the hand movements to burn calories, or what's the reason?
Yes, that's true. We need to keep exercise and move our hand.
Okay.
You know.
I see.
But so it's
do more of this then.
You're very safe in this. Okay, so let's move to cheese. Okay, so cheese, who's the number one? In Italy, we have around, but really, 487 cheese varieties officially. Wow. But overall, we can count up to 1,400 different styles of cheese, which means different takes on these varieties based on specific location of Italy. So sorry, France, but you're not get anywhere close here. So over 300 of these cheeses are certified and considered as DOP. DOP means of protected origin, because are really characteristic and tied to the territory where these are produced. And 52 have also received the European Union recognition. So we are the number one producers of cheese, but we are behind France and Germany. Sorry, we are not the number one producer of cheese. We are behind France and Germany. But for us, cheese is a work of craftsmanship, not just a serialized mass production. So we leave the first place to Germany and France about producing. But what we do is simply art, is not cheese, and we are not afraid of being second or third in production.
That's a real Italian speaking.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to convey all my Italian spirit.
Yes.
You are really good at marketing. I think
you're doing a very good job for.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thanks. So cheese is an experience in Italy for sure. And what about in vino veritas, the Latin said, which means that in the wine there is the truth. So Italy is the world's top wine producer. As much as Italy is composed of different colors and cultures and languages, also wines tell different stories based on their area of origin. So we have 424 types of wine and 355 autochthon vines. The vines, for those who are not experienced, is the kind of plant, the kind of plant where then the grapes grow, and we have 355 different types of that, where the wines are then produced and characterized with other flavors and other elements. So Italy is not top wine exporter, as most wine goes for the internal market. Spain holds the spot for the greatest wine exporter in the world. And then French, most notably, really know how to market their wine, because they export 25% less wine than Italy, but they generate 50% more revenue than Italy. So this clearly shows how French wine is truly expensive, and they are very strong in marketing their wine as a premium product.
Maybe that's also true for the airline industry, France compared to Alitalia, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. But no, you don't want to play with Alitalia. You don't want to play with that, because it's like shooting on the Red Cross. So let's leave Alitalia out of the discussion, because there is no play there. So, okay, in Italy we say tutto andrà bene, all will go well. We said it during the COVID. Unfortunately, this balcony had a bad experience, and not everything is exactly going very well. So this is somehow very representative for Italy. We are very optimistic, but then, things happen anyway. So thank you for your patience for this presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it, and you got a glimpse of Italy, and that you have felt the urge to come and visit our beautiful country, despite Italians and our.
It was very good. Bravo. I visit Italy, and it's a great, great, great country. I love it. I love Italy. Yes, everything is good there. So it was very.
As I say, as a tourist, is amazing. Yes, for sure.
But interestingly, you have not mentioned anything about COVID. So what is now the COVID-19 situation?
You're right.
Oh, yes. The COVID-19 situation in Italy looks a bit stable now. Luckily, the numbers are under control. The curve has stabilized and is going down. People are simply being somehow careful, but not really. Trying to behave, but sometimes the local authorities needs to call up for some order, and are sometimes restricting things when people are getting a bit out of control. There is a lot of desire to play as if nothing really happened and start to live again a normal life. And luckily, the contagions are not increasing very much and are under control, and this is at the moment possible. I think that we are lucky, because if we see how people is really behaving, I didn't see much hope for the COVID to be under control, but somehow it's working. And I would say that this is a good luck, because the impact on the economy is tremendous. And I think that we will see that in September, October, when the whole situation is going to stabilize. I hope that there will not be a second wave and that things will normalize quite quickly. But, we were on lockdown when we were supposed to be on lockdown. We are trying to behave as much as possible, given the fact that we are Italians. And somehow it seems to be working, apart from the balcony there.
And what is your explanation for this initial spike? Is there something which other countries can learn from Italy?
But I think that the initial spike, it was quite common everywhere. What was peculiar about Italy was not the rate of contagion. I think that we were hit earlier maybe than other countries, but also a major part played the age of the population. We have a very old population, and the number of deaths is also related to that, because COVID seems to be quite dangerous for people that have other pathologies already and are a bit farther with age. And we had a lot of cases in these pensions where old men get to leave this like retirement house for old people. And so I think that most of the biggest cause for the high death rate was this, for sure. But on the other hand, Italy has reacted fast to when everybody in Europe was teasing Italy for being too over-exaggerating the reaction. Actually, Italy did some quick react, and this helped somehow. Then we can all question how this lockdown and the effect that the lockdown had on the economy will impact the country at a later point in time. But at least we managed to stop the epidemic before it reached a higher degree, like it's happening in other countries which have surpassed Italy by now. It's very difficult to judge whether it was better to have a larger epidemic but not slowing down so much the economy, or the other way around, because we are playing with people's lives here. But still, I think that overall in Italy, we have done all our best and have acted responsibly for what was the circumstances.
And what was the root cause? Is it because, let's say in Germany, it was Austria, Ischgl, skiers were bringing it back to Germany. And I was reading some articles many months ago that the Italian fashion industry is having a lot of Chinese working in sewing all the nice clothes for the industry. And is this a correlation, explanation why it broke out in Italy so much, or what is
I don't think that the Chinese workers in Italy were a reason, because Chinese workers in Italy are mostly staying in Tuscany and areas close to Firenze, but that was not the place where the epidemic started. The epidemic started in the north, in Turin, in Milan. That is more or less where they believe it started. So it has to do with business travel most of all, I think, and that's how it all spread. Because otherwise we would see a much more incidence of the illness in Tuscany, which is not there. It was one of the countries which was affected the less. So I don't think it's because of the Chinese workers. So these are just allegations, I think.
Okay, good.
But most likely, business travel is one of the strongest point for me that brought the virus to Italy. And then also, businessmen are very not likely to stop when they feel not so good, because they need to work, they need to travel, they need to visit, and this didn't really help the whole situation.
And what was striking me initially was when you were describing you were partially Ukrainian and your dog is from France and so on. Why are you having a PSS from India? What is the secret behind?
What's the story behind? Well, actually, I think that is destiny playing tricks on me, but it was by pure chance, I would say. But I never regret the choice.
Oh. So India has also some PSS. I didn't know that.
You don't know that? There's
No.
more than one, I think.
Really? Marco, did you know that they have PSS in India?
I heard so, yes.
Oh, interesting.
They are very stubborn about PSS. They never give
in Italy or in India?
In India.
I see.
Even Italian customers never give up, believe me.
But Alessandro, I have to say it was amazing, and I think you are one of the champions of the virtual happy hour. You were there since the beginning, and I loved it. I love also your sense of humor. I love that you were part of the virtual happy hour 4.0, our wine tasting and so on. I hope we can also have a cooking class with you, because I think you are a big asset, and presentations like today and the hours like today, that's for me a lot of energy. So I will tell this around, and I'm a big fan of Italy, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, and I'd be glad to cook for you. So book me in for that.
What you said you cook for me, so I can tell my wife you are not. She has not to cook for me anymore.
I said
not for me, or
I said you in the wider.
Okay. I thought you are now going to cook for me every day. Okay.
No. It doesn't seem feasible.
Christine, you are so shy and you are so calm today. That's not common usually from Canada. Something is going on there in Canada, isn't it?
I think she is starting to prepare pasta.
Really?
Possibly.
Christine, are you still there?
I am. Sorry, I had written to Alessandro in the chat that I was remaining quiet and off camera today. I was doing a couple of things while I was listening. Yes, I was quiet today, but now I'm very, 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 very hungry, and I think I have to go make some pasta.
So that means the next virtual happy hour 5.0, when we have our cooking class, you are making the pasta together with us and Alessandro?
Perhaps.
Alles ist möglich. And by the way, I'm also strongly recommend you the 26th of August. We have a new presentation for the Virtual Ops 2020. And the guest speaker is Steve Bogie.
Yeah, that's what you sent to this morning, right?
No, it's just from 3 hours ago. So it's
Well, for me, it was this morning. But you sent an email, and I saw Steve and Brigitte's names, and I almost fell off my chair. I thought, what's going on? So you know Brigitte St. Pierre as well?
Yeah. No. We have a session on the 23rd of July, and then on the 26th of August, Steve is presenting the new not normal.
Yes, Steve and I can perhaps be able to speak to the new not normal.
So that's why if you register for that, you are going to be part of this panel.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm there.
Very good, very good. So thank you, everybody. That was one of the best virtual happy hours 3.0. Alessandro, I owe you now €1. And not you.
Yes,
you owe me even €10. So that's no, the other way around. I owe you €10. And I hope we have you with us when we are going to make this South African wine tasting with MG. Let us know if you're interested in that, because Marco is organizing that already. And I wish you. Say again? Say again?
What was that?
I didn't say anything. No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Someone did.
So I'm wishing you, everybody, a fantastic second half of the week, and looking forward to the upcoming virtual happy hours 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. And if you know somebody who is enthusiastic, positive, smart, and upbeat, please spread the word. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Sure.
Bravo.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. For Alessandro.
Bye.